Scott. Hey.
Hey, Brett. Thanks for being patient with me.
Yeah, all good. Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Hey, Mike. Get to put a face in the name, and you look just like Brian. So, of course,
Yeah, no surprises there. Yeah, and you probably know more about him than most people because his trauma is exactly the same as mine. So identical.
Exactly the same.
The genes are the same. The trauma is the same.
yeah, it happens like that, doesn't it?
So maybe before we jump into it, I just wanted to give people a little bit of an idea of like how we know each other and how it got started. I think it was like 3, maybe 4 years ago when I heard you on. It was either Luke's Story or Eric Godsey. I think you're on one of those podcasts.
Yeah, the myths that make us.
Yeah, I think that's Eric Godsey's podcast. Yeah, and I remember just hearing it, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's out of Bellingham." So I emailed you, and anyway, fast forward now, we've been working together for 3 years, almost 3 years. And
Yeah,
and I mean, we've been through a lot, we've been through children, babies, brain tumors, and
yeah,
a lot of life
yeah.
experiences.
You have been through a lot for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know if we'll get into everything today, but I just think what we've done together, what you've done and shown me through the somatic therapy, it's just like it's been completely life-changing for me. And
Awesome.
it's so simple. It's such a simple process.
Yeah,
I mean, it takes a lot to get into the act of going through this and diving into some of this deeper stuff, but the process itself is so simple and it's so powerful, and it puts people into touch with their bodies, their intuition, their felt senses, which I think so many of us are out of touch with. And so I'm excited to talk to you about what you're doing, and I'd love for you just to share like what is somatic therapy, and specifically you do a style called Reichian somatic therapy. So if you want to
or
just
orgone is another term for it.
okay. And so, yeah, if you want to distinguish between what makes it orgone and Reichian and what somatic therapy is in general, and also even how you got into all this, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I basically started as a client. I needed help. And a guy came to a class I was taking at Fairhaven College, where I teach now. And he led us through some breathwork exercises. He had me breathing, and my partner did some eye work, and I was sobbing. And I was like, oh my God, I need this. And so I pretty much found the closest Reichian therapist, which was a guy named Dr. Dan Schiff, who's in Portland now, but he was in Seattle at the time. And I made it part of my college experience, and I drove down and had a session with him every Monday. And so a lot of the work, in my opinion, it's apprenticeship based. Because you can read all kinds of things about all kinds of things, but none of them really give you the experiential like evidence. And I consider Dr. Dan sort of my Yoda.
Yeah.
He was so skillful with me that he would just push on my chest and tell me to show sorrow, and I would start to cry. And so I was just like, I had no idea I wasn't crying. I just hadn't been crying because, as men, as this man, I tell myself a story about my feelings that is helpful or not helpful. It's just what I do, and it helps me not cry and not feel. So
Yeah.
when I was feeling, I was like, whoa, I had just returned from a year in India, hoping to meet a guru to, wake me up at some level. And so when I started doing this work with Dr. Dan, I was like, this is what I was looking for. And
Yeah.
it wasn't anything he particularly did other than get really present with me, which helped me get present with me because I was just full of all kinds of running from me.
Yeah.
I was so good at running from me. I didn't even know it.
Yeah. I mean, You just get lost. You get lost. You get lost in those stories. Yeah.
And I get lost in the running, and then
Mm.
I become the running.
It makes me think, and I guess I want to pick up this thread, but first you were just mentioning uh, the eye movements, and even maybe just in the breath work. Can you explain a little bit more about what that process is, and also like how it works? Because it is very simple. It's just using your eyes and your breath, but it's able to put people, and even myself included, I feel this, into a place that gets them outside of um, this wall of defenses that they've created, or just their normal waking self that might be
Yeah.
afraid to show some deeper emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. We live in a world that is emotionally phobic of our depths, and yet it's the very medicine we need to help the world and to fuel our visions. We can't do it without feelings. Feelings are motoric action sequences. Like, you both have kids. When they want to be near you, what's their action sequence? Do they reach up and out towards you? That's the
Yeah.
that's the gesture of love and connection.
Mm.
So then imagine all of that stuff. If you're emotionally repressed, we're still going to want to be connected and want love, but we just hold all that in. And that's expensive, calorically expensive, energetically expensive. It takes a lot of energy to repress. Like, you ever have to go pee and you're like, nope, not going to go pee. That takes a lot of energy. Your
Yeah.
temperature gets funky, and it's like, why do we do that? Well, there's no place to pee. Okay, so then we learn how to hold it so we don't just pee all over the bookstore. And in order to fit into this world, we have to hold our organ systems, and all that holding really ultimately, I think, leads to depression and an excessive amount of feeling that turns into anxiety, which is really just sort of like a trigger happy presence of fear. And there's more than enough of it. But I start with the eyes, which this whole eye thing is an extension of the Reich work. I just started to incorporate it around COVID because I realized so
Oh,
many of my clients were in their head. And I was like, I thought that my theory during the COVID time was that we all got sick because it was the moment we left the body and entered into the mind sphere.
oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Zoom was happening and calls.
Mm.
We all remember that world.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I don't know how to help anyone. They're all in their heads. They don't have a body. So I got some of my head cases, which they're just like really in their heads, just like spinning and constantly trying to figure it all out.
Right.
I got them into their eyes and looking to the right. And I saw that their nervous system would shift from the vigilance of fight, flight, run, and all those to deeper breaths. I would hear digestive noises. And I thought, okay, maybe the eye work is just one ticket to the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's all. That system is also known as the rest and digest system.
Yeah.
So when we're safe, we're not running, we're not sobbing, right? We're not, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to fix. And yet the mind in its hyperactivity will always think there's something to do, something to fix, and something to figure out. And I have so many clients that are overshooting themselves constantly, like really smart people who have made some great understanding of themselves and their self-reflections, but they're trying so hard to do it right that they're starting to miss their own insight.
Mm.
Like, they don't pause, they don't receive, they don't allow. Those are
Yeah.
words of the parasympathetic. Like, how many of us eat food and close our mouth to put it in. Yeah, we have to receive the food, and we have to receive our partner's love of us. So we have to loosen the mouth. I actually have a workshop that I do. I haven't done it in a while, but the workshop is coaching everyone to
Loosening their
keep
jaw. Yeah.
for the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how everyone gets more vulnerable, more open, and just safe.
Mm. I wanted
And there's
to um, just explain it, what this process is, just so that the people that are listening to this can get a sense. It's simply, and maybe I'm just going to go from personal experience. Maybe you do a little bit different things for different people, but um, you're laying down on the mat, you're looking straight up in the air, and then you shift your eyes one direction. Usually it starts to the left, so your eyes just move to the left, your head stays straight. You do big 4 open mouth breaths with a noise, kind of a release of a ha, at the end, ah, as you release. And you do this process as you look in different directions throughout the room. So you'll turn your eyes to the
yeah,
right.
you hold your attention in one direction for 4 breaths. And I've found that the eyes are the organs of attention. And so there's multiple layers of healing going on. One is so many people after the COVID thing, like I said, they were so in their heads, they were hyper focused in their minds. So I wanted to get them out of their minds and into their eyes.
Yeah.
And so by holding, they could break the habit patterns of their attentional system. I mean, that's what's being farmed. That's where lots of companies make a lot of money off of us humans because they capture our attention, and our attention, has a price tag on it. It's
Yeah.
a value. And so if you think about people during COVID just looking at the screens and what all the screen light does to the brain, it actually turns off the production of melatonin. And melatonin isn't just important for sleep. It's also an anti-cancer, anti-tumor
Mm.
thing that just exists in the brain.
Oh, that's interesting. Um, I mean, and I found how effective it was at pulling down those defenses, and I notice it now. It's very clear that um, when when it's harder to come into contact with those felt senses, with the emotions that might be wanting to rise up in the body. If it's not there, if it's not easily there, you'll have me do another round, or you'll have me do a more intense version, or something, and
Yeah.
we'll go into hitting and,
It's,
and kicking, and it's
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 sometimes
amazing.
those feelings are just buried
Yeah.
underneath armor. And so the eyes just seem to soften the armor. And the eyes are a major place of expressivity. And we're social animals. And so our eyes and eye contact means a lot. And not just like the long stare club, like, oh, I like dolphins too, not that. But just like a good dose of eye contact
Yeah.
is signal of safety. Notice how either of you breathe if I start doing this.
Mm.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
notice. Or either of you holding your breath.
Yeah. It was very shallow.
Yeah, so I'm giving you a danger cue, and your nervous system will start to mobilize from the danger. And if we think about health, one of the major sources of inflammation is heat, and heat is often caused from the sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight. And we live, sure, there's stress. All those things are true. And the future of health isn't going to be a life without stress. It's going to be us as humans being able to manage our stress and be present with our stress, because you can't manage what you can't get present with. Like, where's that stress in my body at this moment? And there are anomalies in the nervous system and the brain that none of us can decode or throw chemicals against and have some control. So the illusion of control in health is, I think, a lot of what, we all are learning to let go of. But I think part of that is that doctors need to do their emotional work, you know, like, Dr. Dan, his goal with me was to cry. Like, he wanted me to cry.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm from Texas, so that just means, boy, you gonna cry? I'm gonna give you something to cry about.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's no gentle place for a soft, young person like myself. So I learned to hold in and back all those tears. And one of the reasons I went into therapy is because all of my relationships I had prior to working with Dr. Dan, my relationships had the same arc and the same outcomes.
Mm.
And I was just like, okay, I'm the common denominator. What the hell is going on? Why does this keep happening?
Yeah.
And I realized that I never told the partner what I needed. I never communicated about anything about my internal life because at some level I was in the illusion that I thought I knew more because I had been to India or whatever.
Mhm.
Whatever my story was in that moment. Oh, she didn't know anything. She hadn't been to India,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious about your journey to India and I guess everything prior to seeking. Um, and then I guess I'm curious, and I'm trying to parallel this too with what I've been through um, in my healing journey. I I started off seeing a lot of therapists and feeling empowered because I was going and getting help.
Totally.
And it felt like, I'm learning something. I know about myself. I have all this inner wisdom and, I've got this covered. And as I kind of kept going, I moved around a little bit. So I'd find new therapists, but it was just like nothing was really sticking.
Right.
Um, and so, eventually all of this kind of wore off a little bit, like this part of the ego component of it that was like, yeah, I'm healing myself. I got all the resources. I'm doing this and I know so much and blah, blah, blah. And eventually I started seeing this therapist who just like wouldn't, when I would like get into my head and think about things, he just wouldn't entertain any of it.
Right.
He was just like, well, how do you feel? And I was like, I don't know how I feel. And then he's like, come to this group. And so I would come to this weekly group and there I would just spout. I'd be like talking about my problems like I knew them in and out. And the group would just be silent, like not out of rudeness. They were just like didn't know how to help me.
Totally.
And eventually I just came to this realization. I was like, God, like I keep outsourcing my growth. Like
Right.
I am putting that in my own way. And it's actually a form of I'm not taking full responsibility for everything I'm doing because I'm expecting that the group's going to tell me what I want to hear and the guy's going to tell me what I want to hear. But the silence was like everything.
Right.
And I just stopped. I kept going to group, but I stopped going to therapy for a little bit. And I was like, it's all about self love.
Yeah.
It's all about, I've got the answers. And, and I think I still want help and need support, but I got to that point where I was just like, I am, I'm I don't know, I'm putting things in my own way to prevent me from healing when I actually have all the answers and I just need to love myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Nice. Nice. Into your own learning process because it's not
Yeah.
always easy to be open to like, oh shit, I'm blocking my growth here. None of us want to see that, but it takes quite a bit of courage and self honesty to see it. So
Yeah. It was all the awkward silent moments in the group where I would say something and talk for like a minute, and then at the end, people would just go kinda like, "Oh, great," and I'm
you.
"All right, I think I get it now. I'm gonna stop sharing
Yeah.
and just do something else." Yeah. Mhm. Uh, got
Wow.
with the that we were doing. That's I think what I appreciated about the somatic therapy is that I too can get in my head quite a bit.
Yeah.
And especially in the beginning, there was periods of time where I didn't know what and I was didn't know what I was supposed to be doing in our sessions. there was
Sure.
this expectation of, oh, something's supposed to be happening. I'm supposed to be feeling something, and I'm just gonna wait patiently and really focus and making sure that I find the right thing that's coming up.
Right.
And I would catch myself, and you would catch me, and I'd just be like, I don't know what what I'm doing, and what's supposed to happen, right? And so there was maybe the first 4 or 5 sessions, nothing really happened, and
Right.
I was even questioning, like, is this the right thing for me? And
Right.
eventually we did have a breakthrough where it was like, oh, here it comes, like it just able to let my guard down. But it was about this hypervigilance, this, and you talked about it earlier, kind of this constant doing and constant try to figure it out, trying to be, in your mind all the time instead of in your
Totally.
body. And
And we don't see that as a form of self-defense, but it is. When we're always a little in front of our own time space, nothing can catch us, not even our own awareness.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, and
so
that's
likes to the mind likes to run and be busy simply so it doesn't ever have to take a look. I mean, the
mm,
whole job of the personality and the ego is to protect us, not to be an asshole and all those things, but just to life's hard. And so we put on these shells, not knowing that they're costly, but knowing that whatever just happened before that, we put on that layer hurts so deeply.
mm,
You
yeah,
remember being kids and just, the dad or the mom says whatever they say in their tone, and you're just like, oh, it's like,
right, yeah,
and then, but as a kid, you never think, I'm going to armor. I'm going to develop a rigid personality. Of course. But that's what happens. We just protect
mhm,
tender vulnerability instead of cultivating it for the good of each other.
yeah, and like the work that you're doing, the type of work is is so unstructured in a very wonderful way. Me personally, and I think as society, we live in a very structured, controlled, regimented culture
That-
and framework.
That's why I have a clipboard next to my mattress so that I can say, oh, he checked off. Yeah. Kidding.
It's
The art of healing requires me to have a German accent and to be very rigid.
Yeah, I can hear that.
yeah,
It makes me feel so much safer now, Yeah,
Yeah, you're like,
that accent.
yeah, oh, he's German. I can do anything I want.
it is so nice. That's one thing that I loved about the work we did, is because I didn't have to think about anything. I
Right,
could go in
right.
there. There's no agenda. There's
You
nothing that I need to come prepared with. Even
Yeah,
whatever, once I was able to figure out how to trust and to tap into what the intelligence of the body was trying to tell me, that's all I needed. And one session would be around family or early childhood. One would be around intimate relationships. Another would be about something completely different. And sometimes I wouldn't even know what was coming up.
yeah,
There were
yeah,
times where I'd be bawling and crying and even laughing all in the same thing. There was just this sadness and despair, and then it
yeah,
was being released into something so ecstatic and wonderful and blissful that I even started laughing. And at the end of it, I had no idea what it was, but it didn't matter. It was just such a wonderful experience, even in the depths of the darkness of it. But
yeah,
that kind of chaos, I think, is so helpful, and I mean chaos in a very positive sense. That kind
yeah.
of
The emotions are very nonlinear, so they
mm,
don't move in predicted patterns. They move in fits and bursts and explosions, and so that's just how much potency you have.
Oh, I've done a lot of IFS, and there's all these different parts. And as a super analytical person who loves to compartmentalize and organize, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna identify all my parts and then make a spreadsheet. Like, the German in me, I was like really excited about it, and then part of me was just like getting exhausted with this. Like,
Yeah. It's
why?
too much.
Why do I? It was like, why do I need to identify? Like, it was just a lot, and I just kind of gave up on it. But part of me was like, oh, I'm not tracking my progress. You know, I'm not sure how my parts are like. Are they doing good? Are they coming out? But um,
Are they
the
still?
therapy was help.
Are they? Yeah. Are your parts still there? You know, you've got
Yeah.
legs.
I think there's some component that's helpful because you you can understand how you may react in certain situations, but again, that's just more being more analytical, right? Like guarding yourself and preparing yourself. So I kind of like I just got rid of that. I still do that therapy occasionally, but I got rid of worrying about tracking it.
Nice.
And I'd go into those sessions like Brian is saying, and they'd be like, "What do you want to talk about?" And I'd be like, "I have no idea."
Yeah.
And then we would just sit there, and then the thing would come. I'm like, "Oh, that feels better," as opposed to being like, "I'm gonna check off
Right.
all of this protector part. All right, he's done. Next, that was kind of the analysis I'm doing, but like, it just doesn't work like that. I mean, even as an analytical person, it just doesn't. The healing doesn't work like that.
Uh-uh. No, but really wise of you to discover that now, and not just keep going to therapy and going to therapy and going to therapy, and just banging your head up against that wall.
Mm.
So a lot of it is just profound humility and letting one's ego soften enough to enter into that profound humility of just like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing for us as men, but it's one of the most important things to know that you don't know anything, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
humbling, but it's so real, and it's gives us more access to energetic reality.
Yeah. There's a part of the work that you do and that we do that's really comes into an exhaustion. We exhaust the body, and this is
Total.
after the breath work, after the eye work. There's hitting and kicking with your arms and legs, and I mean, even sometimes you'll bring out like wiffle bats and wooden bats, and even pelvic floor, whatever you want to call them, bashing your pelvic
The
against
thrust.
the thrust. Yeah, and there's a
You
level of
haven't told me about that, Brian.
yeah. I don't think I haven't told it's new. It's something new that we've been doing. But it's yeah, I mean before Scott hopped on, I was telling Mike about my the tightness in my hips, which I've never really experienced in my life before. It's usually tightness in the shoulders and the jaw and the
Right.
face and these like hip and pelvic smashes against the futon are helping to release and open up whatever energy is there, whatever emotion is there. And
We don't realize as little boys how we will mirror the holding patterns of the men around us. And so a tight sphincter and a tight genital area is a kind of like cutting off from pleasure. But it's also what soldiers do for controlling their feelings. If you squeeze your perineum, you know, long enough, you won't feel anything but a squeezed perineum.
Mike just
And
adjusted because I think he noticed his sphincter was a little tight. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, but I didn't want to ask him about his sphincter.
My shallow breathing and all of it's being brought to my attention right now.
Yeah. And we all have sphincters. We could just have a men's group called, "Hi, my name's Scott. I've got a sphincter." And then, we can each own the fact that we all have an anus.
I would be down for that kind of group.
Yeah.
I had a teacher in my grad program who was like, if you ever get to do a workshop in the full nude, just do it. Don't overthink it. Do it. He's like, it's the most shameful, shame-based healing experience you'll ever have. I'm like, wow, awesome.
Yeah. So did you ever get a chance?
Not yet. I might have to just put it on myself and I don't really want to see all my clients' nipples.
Oh, that's the hard part.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah, sorry, Judy, your nipples aren't part of our group. They're ugly nipples.
Can't say that.
Yeah.
Can't say
Can't
that.
say that, Scott. Yeah.
Brian, you were talking about the bathhouse
Mm-hmm.
experience of being totally naked. And then someone else was talking to me about that too. And they were just, I think, they were from Europe, Finland, I think. And they were really accustomed to the bathhouse culture up
Totally.
there. And they were
So
just
normal.
naked everywhere. And they're like, man, it's so weird that you guys are just clothed all the time. I'm like, man, yeah, there's an immense amount of shame
Totally.
that
It's so
I
it was so freeing. The first time I showed up, the first day to the Esalen bathhouse, and everybody was naked. There were maybe 2 or 3 people beside me that had bathing suits on, and so it helped because I started to feel like the weird one, you know.
Right.
And so it helped in that situation because everybody else was so comfortable with it, and then
Right.
you know,
Totally.
the next day when I decided to do it,
Oh,
it was so freeing. It
we
was just
all have
like,
bits
man,
and genitals and parts that may or may not stink, but we're not sniffing each other's. Everyone is maintaining control. Otherwise, we don't sniffing each other and just like, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it is. I mean, I could see a workshop being it would be very awkward, but I could see how freeing it would be too.
But awkward is one of my favorite workshops because awkwardness is the feeling of doing something totally out of your norm. And so much of the mat work is um, disorganizing the normative state of you. Not that that normative state is bad or wrong, but to disorganize it so that you can come into yourself with yourself more in presence in contact with you. Whereas it's just easy to live in the day to day and slowly lose contact with self.
Yeah.
Not the self that likes, my hobbies and special cheese, but the self just like the core, the core that's just like, just wants to protect your children at all costs, just that the internal fire of the warrior is just like, I am here and I'm alive and I'm going to fucking be alive.
Yeah. Yeah. That raw, like very raw, primal,
Totally.
natural, almost kind of animal like, just your essence, your true
It's
essence.
power. And so much of that power is consumed in this managerial rigidity that we're kind of making fun of earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You have to manage your genitals, otherwise they could touch someone.
Yeah.
And if your genitals ended up touching other genitals, that could be a no-no.
Yeah. Brian and I we're about to open this sauna, and just the amount of shit that you have to do to get anything done. And we're talking about the attention, right? And it's like our jobs take up a lot of attention.
Totally.
And they take up the attention of just like, let's go shop for insurance, let's go find the best rate, and let's go sign a 25-page lease and review all the terms and all that. And it's just like layers of shit that just bombard your attention. And then there's artificial deadlines that you get. And I was just like, I'm in the process right now. And as you were describing your inner being,
Right.
I was like, man, I haven't been in touch with him for a while. And it takes the form of a lion in most of my visuals.
Oh, nice.
And it's just like sleeping and slouched. And it's like, when you're ready to stop doing this bullshit, like, I'm here and I'll wake up. But it's just now dawning on.
And scream and kick and shit and fight.
Yeah, I got to do something. I'm like, man, I've been sitting at that desk just shopping insurance for a little too long.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's totally painful.
The pelvic thrusts will help. Do some and screaming. we didn't talk about this, Scott, but like
The bat works.
the mat work, the screaming.
Bat. But, hitting the
Oh, bat
bat.
too. Yeah. Yeah. The bat.
So many of my male clients, when I get them on the bat, they will usually break down and cry. And that's, again, like you're right, Brian. Part of what we're doing is exhausting the armor. And I had this one client, real charismatic guy, real sweet, but kind of crazy and manipulative in so many different ways. And I got him on the bat, got him hitting, and then he just sobbed for hours. He'd been in pain for so long and just holding it in and back for so long. And I never saw him again.
Mm.
Of
Wow.
course, you guys would be like, hell yeah, let's do that shit again.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate that about you guys, because I can tell, you're committed to seeing what's on the other side that you can't see.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. It's an
A
endless
lot of
curiosity.
a lot
It's
of the
just,
methods I use are exactly that, to help you access what you could never access through your own mental exploration, like the strangling of the pillow. None of us know that we have a, a kind of rageful hatefulness in us, because we wouldn't want to do that as good boys, but we don't know it's there until you start squeezing this pillow and you're like, wow, I really fucking want to kill this person. And it's like, we're not judging that. It's just there. It's just stuck in your tissues.
yeah. Yeah. There's such a depth to this that so many
To
of us are
this,
not even in contact with, don't even know it's there.
yeah,
And
total.
would even deny, and would even deny it if you were asked, right? Is this part of you? People would say
No,
absolutely not.
no,
There's no way, but it's in all of us. And if it's
yeah.
in someone like me, and
Get rage and disgust.
yeah,
It's so revitalizing to make contact with our disgust. And it's
it
hard
is.
to make contact with it without it being performative.
Right. And this makes me think about, I mean, the life that Mike and I both lived and that we grew up in was what most people would consider a very normal life,
To
typical. And I've been working with you for 3 years, and I think most people that would know me would probably be shocked to know that I've been in therapy this long, and the experiences that some of that I'm sharing now, and some of that I've gone through. If I were to tell them the depth of the emotion, the intensities of these emotions, and the things that were living inside of me that were being held back, they would probably be
Right.
like, they wouldn't know what to say, because to the outside world, to my friends and some people that are very close to me, I'm a grounded, highly functional, highly successful person in this society.
Totally.
Yet, I think there was a part of me that knew, and why I was so drawn to you, that there's something deeper inside that I hadn't touched, and I didn't even know it at the time. I was still in denial, and the main reason why I actually came to you is because I was projecting I guess my fears, my insecurities onto my wife. Actually, I was saying my wife needs to go to get therapy, and I knew that I've heard it enough times that when someone thinks that about somebody else, that it's them who needs to go seek therapy. And that was actually one of the big reasons why I went, is because, okay, I was like, I'm going on this path. I'm doing what we're doing through TerraForm, and I need to remove this judgment around her and other people, and actually start to look myself in the mirror and see
Yeah.
what's really in there. And I think if people like me and people like Mike and I think most of our society would fall into this category of very highly adjusted, highly successful, but the society and the system that we're in is
Leaves
broken.
us flat. It's
Yeah.
like it's like not eating food with salt for years. There's so we're all tempted by this capitalistic vision of happiness and rest, but it's exactly that. It's a carrot on the stick. One of my new favorite books is called Rest as Resistance.
Mm.
So that this artist, when she had a show, people from all over Chicago would come to the museum and look at her art, and she would just be hanging out there, kind of like a little ninja. And she would notice that everyone who came in would just fall asleep. She's like, oh, wow. We're so tired because the world is working us to the bone, and no one recognizes that there's a bone to be worked down to. And if we had meaningful work, we wouldn't be so at the bone. Work that feeds and fuels the source of the worker.
Yeah.
And what you guys are building is going to provide that meaningful connection to health and well-being.
Mm.
We live in this world where analysis, if you are good at analysis, you get paid more. Whereas really analysis doesn't solve everything. It just helps you see more. And then it's like, oh, how much more can I see? And then there's a point at which we have to learn to not see, like, oh,
Trust.
TMI.
Yeah.
Brian, you were talking about, the definition of successful in society. And as I've been healing, I guess, I don't know, it's a lifelong thing, but as I move through life and I see people that are not quote unquote successful, but they're happy, I'm just like, there's something huge right there. Like, I went to my buddy's house and he was kind of complaining about things being expensive and, not being able to afford groceries and stuff like that. But on the same token, he was also telling me that he would turn wood on his lathe until like 2 a.m.
Wow.
because he just loved it. He just loved it so
Listen,
much, It's like,
hell yeah. He's
and it's just like, it's consuming. It's very consuming to do that, which I didn't realize. Like, it's very fun to like watch the wood transform as it's spinning around. But like, it just goes to show that he's like, he doesn't care. He just knows exactly what makes him feel good.
exactly.
And I bury myself with attention and analysis and distractions, and like, I forget what makes me feel good. And here's a guy who's like, quote unquote, struggling, and
Right.
his terms, he's not, and he still knows exactly what he wants to do. He just wants to
Yeah.
be dog tired the next day because he's staying up woodworking.
Right.
Yeah. And I think so much of what you do, Scott, is help people on this journey of self-discovery, finding who you are.
I like to think that when people hire me, they're not hiring me. They need some help to unfold what's already happening in them.
Mm-hmm.
Their
Yeah.
own evolution has, it's not my job or my work to evolve someone, but they know that they're stuck and that they need some help. And that's all I do. I just help people start moving forward. And in that forwardness, it often includes visions of happiness and feeling less connected in their jobs. But like a lot of the work is based on connection. First of all, connecting with self, and then connecting maybe with your partners. And, we're all sort of fed this bill around our sexuality that our sex should be the penultimate of our malehood. But the big thing that's missing from that in our sexual education is that they don't talk about how important it is to feel connected to your lover. And as men, we're not taught, what does connection feel like? What does it look like? We're more, as young men, taught through the unconscious natures of our mother what enmeshment is and what people pleasing is, but we're not taught genuine connection, which includes sovereignty in the ability to say, no, I don't want that.
Mm. Yeah. That is something both Mike and I, the people-pleasing aspect, I think it's a pretty widespread cultural thing as well. But the deeper connection we're all seeking and that you're talking about is an emotional intimacy. It's being seen on so many different levels.
And just relaxed in that connection, as opposed to like busy making that connection better. we don't realize that all that, even though that's the intention, it actually is a major distraction from where life is really happening, which is right now. And that's what's interesting about sex, is the moment we make sex about her orgasm, as men, we've left. We're no longer making love. Love isn't something you make tomorrow. It's made in this here now moment. And so love making and connection can only happen in one time space, the here and now.
Mm.
And we're not trained in that. We don't talk about that. There's no resources for us in that realm. And if they are, they're usually a little kind of gross.
Yeah.
Or like so new agey that, oh, it's just a tantric method. I put my fingers like this and then I put them up her ass. And then she does this with my earlobe. And it's so tantra. Oh my God, I'm so tantra.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah.
Who are you hanging out with? I've never had anyone explore that, but I'm probably just, now that I'm single, I should probably start dating people like that and just figure it out.
I think they call that the Texas shocker, Scott, and I think that. It's in several different books, but if you want to be spiritual,
on your profile, just say, I am so tantra.
My shame around sex has been pushing away those people. So maybe I just got to open it up and I'll bring them in.
Just go to a yoga class and wear a neon onesie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The
And then
go. I live in a small.
I am so yoga. I am doing more and better yoga than all of you will ever do. And I'm fucking.
Yeah, no shame. Just do it.
I'm down. I don't know, Scott. I'm recently divorced, and the whole thought of dating is starting to kind of come into my mind. We've been apart for like a year, but I'm just like, all of the trauma that I had while I was dating in college is now coming back as a 37-year-old. And I'm like, Jesus, it's still there. Like,
well, good news. It never goes anywhere. And you always get to be humbled by all that awkwardness and all that new, fresh beginning stuff. And you're like, my wife and I aren't together, and I've been online dating and met someone recently, and we had a conversation. And I thought it went well, but I did mention that I have brain cancer. And I think that kind of like put a poo smear in the room, like,
yeah.
We're gonna lie about it. Like,
yeah.
Like, I've been dating this guy, but he's dead now. He never told me he had brain cancer.
Yeah, that's kind of a downer, Scott.
Yeah. But it's also kind of.
Was that on the first date you told her that?
Oh, I was just on the phone.
Oh, okay.
I'm the kind of guy that's like, I say it on my profile. I'm like, if you want to connect, let's just have a conversation, because sexual intimacy is a kind of conversation. And so I've always noticed that the better the conversation I have with the woman, the better our lovemaking is. And so I'm just like, yeah, fuck all the in-between stuff. Let's just talk.
Yeah.
And so.
And just you're being be real. There's nothing to hide here. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's.
I just had
Go ahead, Mike.
On the dating thing, I got peer pressure to download a dating app. I didn't really want to, but then it started to become fun. And then I kept getting rejected, nothing. And finally someone messaged me.
Which one did you download?
This one was Tinder.
Yeah, that one.
But it's
a little LA like.
I know, and I live in a population of 3,000 people.
Yeah, you're in Boulder?
And so, no, Buena Vista.
Okay.
It's like 2.5 hours away. But someone messaged me, which was strange because that never happens. And I messaged them back, and I was like, my sense of humor comes out in a lot of things. So the first thing I saw in her profile that she was a bow hunter, and I'm a bow hunter. And so the first thing I said was like, hey, do you want to go on a hike / early season scouting trip? somewhere in Salida or BV, and I was like, by the way, I usually rub synthetic deer piss on me whenever I do any of these. I hope that's okay. I and I didn't say haha or anything because I'm like, that's a clear joke.
Yeah.
And then it was just like complete crickets. There was like nothing, no response, and she was the one who initiated the conversation.
Great.
It was like, and then I haven't been on the app since. It's just been
Yeah.
like,
It's like,
something else
oh,
out.
that's not sexy.
Yeah.
I get
That yeah, that it's that brain cancer and deer piss are probably the two maybe no-nos on the first call.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
you gotta wait for a second or third for those. Yeah.
Well, it's their loss.
Yeah, exactly. Good for you. Good internal narrative. Yeah, you know, always learning. And I use Bumble. It's a little classier. And then there's also a new one they kind of found me called Ready that is sort of centered around the literature of Jung Pueblo.
Oh
You know
yeah.
his
Yeah.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah. And so like, you know, you make a profile, but then when you are on and you're looking, you got to go through some of his quotes and some of his studies. And it's all about self-awareness.
Oh, cool.
Exactly.
Great guy to have a dating app. His work is so wonderful. I bought one of his books for my mom, and my mom loves it.
Yeah,
it's great.
He's wise, he's grounded, he's real.
Yeah.
The only bummer is that a lot of these apps, I've got some clients on, and I'm always a little confused. Like, should I like the client? Because I do like the client. She's cool, but I don't really like her. I don't want to like get busy with her,
Yeah.
but I do like her. And so I'm like, do I heart it or thumbs up it?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so glad I don't have that dilemma. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. Like the etiquette and the lingo.
Yeah, totally.
Scott, there was a time, I think maybe you shared it with me, or maybe I heard it from one of the other interviews, but just changing the topic a little bit, you were treating people with autoimmune conditions.
Oh yeah.
And I think this topic is really fascinating, just the idea of treating physical disease that we perceive as physical disease with emotional, mental, and even, somatic therapy. But the way that we look at disease in our society is largely that we address it only when it arises in the physical body, when we see physical symptoms.
Right.
And we treat it as physical. But so much, and I think there's maybe even, you could say, almost all, close to all of disease, of illness, of these symptoms will arise from something much more subtle, from something the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body.
Book that helped me understand my autoimmune clients is called When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate.
Yeah.
And reading that was like, oh my God, of course. And so, yeah, imagine just growing up as a woman being sexualized and swallowing down all that empathic energy that you're picking up all around you, people wanting to fuck you, but not really wanting to know you, and just putting it down, swallowing it, and yet having to kind of have a defensiveness. And the gut can fill up with emotions. And that's where we get the autoimmune issue, is that if someone doesn't, I have a couple of obese clients, and guess why they're obese? Because they were sexually assaulted as children, really young. And so our bodies have these crazy ways to have defenses when the person doesn't have defenses. It's a lot of what I work on, and I think you've experienced this, Brian, is just people exercising and getting confident in their defenses, like the nose. I have people hit the mat with a really strong, loud no. I have a soundproof room, and there's a street on either side, so people can be as loud as they want. And it's incredible to hear these clients return their no's, come back to their strong no, not their, hey, Brian, do you want to smoke some crack? No. like, no, a
Right.
powerful no that people are going to go, oh, okay. Gentlemen, I have to take off here because I took off of work today because I was sick. And I need a nap, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to meet again and have more conversations because it's been really fun to get to know you. You sort of primed the pump, Brian, by telling me that you and your brother got together and just were hilariously inappropriate. And I'm like, ooh, kind of my besties.
We got a flavor of that today.
We got a little taste.
Not a huge.
Yeah, I was as offensive as I thought I could be,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It was
but I
great.
can be way more offensive, and I look forward to that.
Me too. Yeah.
We're just getting warmed up. But
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I appreciate your time, and I'm really glad we got to talk. And I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours.
Absolutely.
So we'll find another time to do it. And then I guess is there a place for people to find you? Do you want people to find you? Do you want people to go to your website? Do you want them to check out your classes at Western?
At this point, I am still on the fence I have a website that's kind of ready for me to upload videos and just start talking about what I do and my perspective on all kinds of things. But I haven't quite figured out how to teach people embodiment online because it's online.
Yeah.
And so I'm just stuck. But I have a website and a platform and all the stuff, and I've got more material than I can shake a stick at, but I just haven't reconciled the conflict in me about the delivery system.
Yeah. That's tough.
I'm not giving up on it. I just haven't found the bridge.
If this helps, I don't know if I've told you this, when you and I weren't able to meet for a while, when my wife was in the hospital and when you were in the hospital, I did your modality by myself, and
Oh, nice.
I found that I think because I've had so much experience with it, I was able to do it. It might be hard for people to learn that virtually and then do it themselves, but anyway, it was still possible. It's not nearly the same as doing it with someone present,
Witness.
but it did work. So anyway, but yeah, I think what you have to offer is amazing. I'd love to see it get out to as many people as you can. It's helped me immensely, and I want to keep talking with you too. So if we can do another one, let's do it.
Hell yeah. All right, my dears.
All right.
Nice meeting you, Scott.
So good to meet you. Look forward to maybe meeting you in person. I actually have a sauna in my backyard and do a sauna every other Friday night.
Oh, nice.
All naked, mostly dads, and we all just open up and talk, and then maybe get a little buzz afterwards. We'll have like a tequila mixed with the Reed's ginger beer.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and then just hang out, laugh, and listen to music, and maybe read some poetry, maybe not.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that sounds like a blast.
That sounds awesome.
It is awesome.
Cool.
All right, Mike.
Until next time.
All right. See you, Scott.
It's funny to say good to put a name with the face, but a face with the name. But I saw Brian before I met you.
So he knew what your face.
Pretty much saw him.
Right.
Yeah.
And the voice is the same too.
That's a lot of our trauma. Yes, that's a lot of our trauma right there. Scott is combining our identities. So
Yeah, you're just one person.
You can help us out with that in our next session.
We could just call you Marian.
There you go.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, stop fighting and just own single identity.
Right, just embrace it. Yeah.
All right, I look forward to doing this again. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Later, Scott.